Radhe Radhe. Welcome to the beginning of another live Sangha. May this be an offering to Sri Radha Krishna. And as we await our first guests to arrive, allow me to set the intention for this space. Pardon me, as being an all-inclusive, welcoming environment open to everyone, regardless of background, identity, ethnicity, belief system, orientation, nationality, or any other thing that may divide us on the surface. We are united on the level of our soul. So I hope you join me in being a part of this Sangha today, where we uplift each other, share positive sentiments, and relate in one another's experiences. Hello, Aquarius lady. Hello, Alyssa. Hello, John F. And welcome, Sky Guardian. Hello, Ragnhildur. Happy to have you here. Hi, Deb. And hello, Kimmy. And hello, is that welcome back to reality? Yes, it is. Hello, Arthur. And hello, Rain. And thank you, Ron, for blessing us so early on with a heart me. Radhe, Radhe. Humble greetings back to you, Magdalene. Ragnvaldur, you ask, do you believe in any deities? I believe that the source of existence is one. But that source, being one, has infinite qualities, and so everything is an expression of that one. Those expressions which have stood the test of time we might call deities, and they are like seeds. If we nourish them with the water of our mind and the light of attention, then they blossom into spiritual truths. King Mikey, you ask, what's your favorite saying from the Bhagavad Gita? Why don't we crack open a random verse from the Bhagavad Gita? See what saying speaks through this book today. We open to verse 17 of chapter 12 on Bhakti Yoga. Krishna says, one who does not rejoice, does not hate, does not lament, does not crave, renounces the dualities of good and evil, being filled with devotion, is dear to me. So, you heard it here, folks. Renouncing the dualities of life. That is the way to the association of the Supreme. Om Namah Shivaya Usha. Hari Om. Good morning, Steve. Radhe Radhe Nish. So, I had a question of the day for all of you today, which is above my head and my hat and mustache. Thank you, King Mikey. Hari Om Tat Sat. How do you honor love? Love comes in many forms. But how do we honor the love that we've had, the love that we are, and the love that we will have? And thank you, Usha, for your trio of roses. Radhe, Radhe. You are free to interpret the question in any way which makes sense to you. And thank you, one cheeky chick, for your heart me. Jai Sita Ram. Aquarius lady, you share that you honor love by loving yourself first. That is a most beneficial way to honor love indeed. So like respecting, yeah, that's a good way to interpret it. Steve, you share that you honor love with undying faithfulness. I concur, Steve. And I'm happy that you're here, Ambrosia. Welcome. And thank you, King Mikey, for your 26 roses. Radhe, Radhe. John F., you honor love by remembering to love ourselves and each other. And thank you, Linda, for your quartet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Enchantress Theodora says that I'm going to have to think about that question. Take your time, there's no rush, and no wrong answers. Zala, you share that you honor love by holding space for all types of love. I love that. When we restrict love to one kind, one type, then we are not honoring the boundlessness that love so easily conveys. Nora, you honor love by making sure you appreciate what it taught you. And thank you, King Mikey, for your 15 finger hearts. Jai Sita Ram. RJ, you honor love by nurturing love. Deb, you say, by showing patience. 31 planes of existence, you honor love with equanimity. And Ragnahildr, you honor love by being trustworthy. Lori, you honor it by caring for your love. And Arthur, by eliminating all the external physical stuff and finding the center of that love. And thank you, John F., for your heart me. And 18 roses. Jai Sita Ram. And Gina, thank you for your trio of roses. Magdalene, you honor love by embodying what it means to love. And Ariat, you share by making it a part of us and not forgetting the moment we first felt it or experienced it. And Anna, you honor love by writing poetry about it. And King Mikey, you honor love by helping in your friends and family, their suffering and joy. Well said. John Voorhees, you honor your love by taking care of not only your animals, but all animals. And thank you, Lori, for your pair of roses. Hariom Tat Sat. Kristen, you honor love by giving space, even for the dark feelings. Absolutely. And thank you, Gina. I hope you're having a lovely day thus far. Enchantress Theodora, you honor love with random acts of kindness. And Lori, you share by allowing yourself to be loved. And Gregor, you honor love by continually trying to learn and understand the true, deeper meaning behind love. And thank you, Matt, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. And 31 planes of existence, thank you for your hand hearts. Jai Sita Ram. Jody, you honor love by understanding that there are different acts and levels of love. And Rain, you share that you let your love show itself through actions, otherwise you'd burst. Very understandable. Steve, you share that you honor love by taking that last snowball in the face. I love to hear it. Alright. Thank you all for exploring this question of the day with me. I'm always so grateful for all the avenues in which such beautiful minds interpret the question. I'm going to minimize it now. And DYJ, you share that you honor love by being aware of its existence. To feel it, you think, is to honor it. Well said. So before we open the floor to our regular format, that is, questions and answers on all things philosophical, general lifestyle, spiritual, consciousness, happiness related, anything and everything in this Sangha, let us read from another few pages of Swami Tadatmanandaji's book, The Roar of the Ganges, which was sent to us by one of our fellow Sangis, Sky Guardian. Swamiji has given us his blessing in reading this book together, and he tells me that it will be soon made available for free as a PDF. So if you wanted to get a copy of it yourself, you don't have to wait. Or sorry, if you just wait, then you'll be able to read it for free. Otherwise, it's available on Amazon, I believe. Thank you, Babesha, for your heart meet. Radhe, Radhe. So here we are in India, and this is more of a story of Swami Tadatmanandaji's life, or as he was known back then, Mark the computer engineer consultant. Here he is in the Swami Dayananda ashram, which is in Rishikesh, a very spiritual city in North India. Berrien was his last name, and thank you for the Swami lore. Mark Berrien. Interesting. Well, I joined the line in the dining hall where food was served from huge buckets onto stainless steel plates we held in our hands. Breakfast today was puffed rice, not the breakfast cereal served with cold milk, but a steaming, spicy mixture, yellow with turmeric. I enjoy spicy foods, but not for breakfast. I found that a cup or two of heavily sweetened tea helped a lot. I sat with the others seated on thin mats stretched out in rows on the dining hall floor. We ate in silence, deftly scooping up the rice with our fingers. Spoons and forks are seldom used here. Outside the dining hall, a long trough-like sink with 20 faucets was provided for washing our utensils. I left my plate and cup on a table to dry and returned to my room to finish unpacking. Inside the bathroom, my reptilian roommate was still hanging from the ceiling. What do lizards eat for breakfast? I mused. My chores finished, I walked down to the courtyard where Mataji was working in the garden. She looked up from the thorny rose bush she was pruning and fussed over me for a few minutes. fulfilling her self-appointed role as ashram mother. She then directed me to the lecture hall where the morning class was about to begin. Each morning at 9 in the morning, Swami Prakash taught a class on the Bhagavad Gita, the most celebrated of all Hindu scriptures. I didn't remember meeting Swami Prakash before. I presumed he was a disciple of Swami Dayananda. I approached the stairway next to the temple and climbed to the roomy second-floor hall. Inside, the morning sun steamed in through windows facing the temple's dome and the river flowing beyond. On the carpeted floor, 20 students sat attentively, men to the right, women to the left. I entered quietly and sat on the floor behind the men. All eyes were fixed on Swami Prakash, a saffron-robed sannyasi of about 40 years who sat cross-legged on a low platform at the front of the hall. I recognized him instantly, even though his neatly trimmed beard and wire-framed glasses were new to me. I first met him a few years ago when he was a student, then known as Brahmachari Murali. I knew he had recently been initiated as a sannyasi. He received a new name, then according to custom, but I had not learned his new name was Prakash. As the others filed out of the hall after class came to an end, I went to greet him. "Namaste, Swamiji," I said with a smile. "Do you remember me?" "Mark," he exclaimed in sudden recognition. "Of course I remember you. You are from the Pennsylvania ashram, isn't it?" "I'm glad you remember me, Swamiji. Congratulations on your initiation as a sannyasi." "Ah yes, that is good news, isn't it?" We walked down the stairs together. He led me to one of the benches facing the river where we sat and talked. His accent was not strong like Vijay's. I wanted to ask him about his initiation. With my own initiation only weeks away, I could scarcely take my mind off the subject. Even though a process spanning a dozen years had led me to this point, and even though I had confronted and addressed my doubts long before boarding the plane in New York, I still felt somewhat apprehensive. My heart was troubled, not by doubt, but by fear. Fear of embarking on an unknown path. Fear of becoming entangled in problems I had not previously considered. I hoped Swami Prakash could share insights that might allay my fears. I asked him to describe the events that led to his becoming a sannyasi. I would share the news of my coming initiation with him later. Swami Prakash seemed embarrassed at first by my request, but when I persisted, he began his story. He told me he came from a large family. He was the 7th of 12 children. As he grew up, his older brothers got married, wanting to happily get settled. But after their marriages, he found that they were not always happy. They had many problems: financial problems, work problems, family problems. They got married to enjoy a happy life, but all they seemed to find was grief. He went on to say, "I thought that I, too, will have many problems if I get married. But then, if I don't get married, who will cook for me or care for me when I am sick? Married or not, I will still have problems, just different problems." The more I thought about marriage, family, career, and so on, the more I realized that I really didn't know how or where to find happiness in life. Swami Prakash told me that he attended Hatha yoga classes at an ashram near his house and happened to hear a Swami teach a class on Vedanta. He had never even heard the word Vedanta before and didn't know what to expect. He found that these teachings seemed to address his fundamental questions about life. He gradually became more interested and later moved to live in the ashram. He stayed for a year, practicing yoga and studying Vedanta, before coming here to Rishikesh to continue his practice at the Sivananda ashram. I asked how he met Swami Dayananda. He explained, "When I lived at the Sivananda ashram, a brahmachari friend invited me to come visit this ashram when Swami Dayananda was staying here and teaching for 1 full month. I attended a class and was so amazed by the clarity of his teachings that I returned every day for the rest of the month. Later, he was to begin teaching a 3-year course in Vedanta and Sanskrit in Bombay. So, I decided to leave the Sivananda ashram and attend that course. After it ended, I returned to live here in the Swami Dayananda ashram." When I asked how he began teaching, he replied, "Once some young ashram residents here asked me to teach a class on the Bhagavad Gita. I didn't think I would be a good teacher, but after we started, they seemed to enjoy the classes. I eventually found that I was content with a life of study, teaching, and meditation. I really wasn't interested in doing anything else, so it is not surprising that I became a sannyasi, isn't it?" Then he abruptly changed topics. "Now, you must tell me about yourself. I have met other Westerners who came to India seeking spiritual truth. Some came here and listened to just a few classes before leaving to travel around the country like tourists. But you have spent years studying Vedanta and Sanskrit in the traditional way, isn't it?" "Yes," I answered, "but there are many from the West who have discovered the value of traditional study." He asked me to tell my whole story, so I began that I was the first of 3 children born to a hard-working businessman and caring mother in the suburbs of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. My childhood and adolescence were unremarkable, except for a few rebellious teenage years during the days of anti-war protests and widespread drug use in the late 1960s. I married my high school sweetheart, completed a degree in electrical engineering, and went to work for high-tech companies in California. As a precocious young engineer, I quickly became one of the whiz kids of the burgeoning new microcomputer field. Instant success bloated my ego. I suffered from an affliction peculiar to those in their early 20s. I thought I knew everything, when I actually knew nothing. Both my young wife and I were emotionally immature. We did not know how to build a healthy marriage. Before long, she felt that she could no longer live with an insensitive, arrogant computer nerd. She left me without warning. I was so preoccupied with my work and oblivious to everything else that I had never suspected such a thing could happen. I lived those early years of my adult life quite unaware, as if I were in a state of partial unconsciousness. I was blind to realities around me, such as my wife's feelings, and I was blind to realities within me as well. My own feelings went unacknowledged. I was jolted out of this dull slumber by the shock of being unexpectedly abandoned when my wife left. My shock turned to sadness, sadness to loneliness, and loneliness to depression. I suffered deeply, yet that bitter experience was a blessing in disguise. It was my wake-up call. It drew my attention inward and forced to examine myself. Not surprisingly, I didn't like what I saw. In the period of introspection that followed, relentless pain forced me to re-examine my beliefs. I discovered that some of my cherished notions were exceedingly naive. I thought that by working hard and becoming successful, I could create a life of fulfillment for myself. But could success truly guarantee happiness? Even if my marriage had been successful, would that have guaranteed happiness? In an uncertain world, happiness can be snatched away in a moment by countless uncontrollable events. Illness, bad timing, a mistake, almost anything. Is it realistic, I wondered, to hope for a happy, contented life? Or are we doomed to live lives of struggle and of suffering? These questions really gnawed at me, I explained. I didn't know if there were any answers, but I felt compelled to find out. Swami Prakash nodded vigorously, his head wobbling spiritedly from side to side in the typical Indian gesture of agreement. Then he remarked, "Even in America, you could not find happiness, isn't it? I always thought that in America, people would be more happy." "That's a big misconception," I responded. "Americans may be wealthier and have more opportunities than people here in India, but they are no happier. Sometimes I feel that Americans, on the average, might be even less happy than most Indians." "How can that be so?" he asked. "Suppose an American has a nice family, a nice job, thousands of dollars in the bank, and then he realizes that in spite of everything, he is still not happy. He might very likely lose all hope and become so depressed that he needs a psychiatrist." We both laughed before I continued. "Imagine what would happen if somebody won a $50 million lottery. Within a year, he might purchase luxurious houses, cars, boats, televisions, everything. Maybe he would invest part of his fortune so he would no longer need to work. The next year, he might travel around the world, staying in 5-star hotels and living lavishly. By the third year, the excitement of being wealthy would probably have started to wear off. And after 10 years, he might end up so utterly bored with his decadent lifestyle that he is ready to kill himself." Swami Prakash seemed amused by my fantasy. He pointed out the similarity of our personal experiences. We had both considered what we might achieve in life: success, wealth, family, relationships, and travel. Such achievements would be pleasing, no doubt, but they would always be limited. They could never ensure lasting happiness and contentment. We both recognized the futility of seeking complete fulfillment through worldly pursuits alone. Yet, we could not resign ourselves to lives of sadness and discomfort. We believed that a fulfilled life might somehow be possible. Each of us undertook a quest and stumbled along various paths until we found someone who had already discovered what we were seeking, someone who could point the way. Our stories were hardly novel. Every generation has begotten many who came to the same conclusions and have undertaken the same quest. Thousands of years ago, a discerning sage expressed the same insight in beautiful Sanskrit poetry recorded in this famous passage from the Mundaka Upanishad. "A person of wisdom who considers the limits of everything gained through life's empty labors, abandons vain striving when he understands mere action leads not to lasting fulfillment. To realize that goal, may he duly approach a competent teacher who not only knows the scriptures complete, but also abides steadfast in reality, in fullness, in peace. Swami Prakash and I both saw how this pattern recognizing the limitation of worldly pursuits and seeking spiritual guidance was almost invariably present in the lives of spiritual seekers. I have borne witness to this pattern many times, having been privileged to meet hundreds of seekers in the United States and India. I learned much from their stories. Each had a unique saga of setting out on a spiritual journey. Some began by heeding an inner call to explore a contemplative art like meditation, hatha yoga, or tai chi. Others were compelled by a significant event in life, sometimes by a tragic moment like the death of a loved one, sometimes by an uplifting incident or powerful spiritual experience. Others simply happened to read an inspiring book or hear a thought-provoking lecture, perhaps, or meet someone deeply engaged in a particular spiritual practice. Let us pause our reading there for now and continue with reading Swami Taratmananda Ji's Roar of the Ganges at a later time. For now, I thank my dear viewers for listening with me. What a wonderful expression from Mark to Swami Prakash of his own experience as a computer engineer, newlywed to a lonely spiritual seeker. I hope you enjoyed that section as much as I did. And thank you to those who sent a gift whilst I read. Please allow me the privilege of extending my gratitude back to you now. I thank you, Jared, for your heart me, your team bracelet, cheer you up, your flowers, pair of donuts, another pair of donuts too. Radhe, Radhe. And that's right, Gregor. So the city that he went to was indeed named Rishikesh. It was like a bedtime story, Chloe. I agree to that. And thank you, Roni, for your rose and Tiny Tiny. Yippee! And thank you, Shakira, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. Thank you, Dub Darker, for your heart me too. Jai Sita Ram. And Savi, thank you for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome, Laurie. And thank you, Giuliano, for your rose, ice cream cone, cloud bread, TikTok, and a GG. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And that's right, Chloe. Rishikesh is where the Beatles learned meditation from Maharishi Patesh, I believe. And thank you, this is my show. Mahesh, not Pratesh. Thank you for your paper crane, this is my show. Jai Sita Ram. Sky Guardian, even you learned something new about your guru, that he was married. I take it that this may be your first time listening to this book too. And thank you, Priscilla, for your rose. Jai Sitaram. And Andy, thank you for that hat and mustache you sent a minute ago. Hariom Tat Sat. Sky Guardian, you shared that you're a slacker in reading. So am I. But when I have an audience such as yourself to read to, it becomes that much easier. And thank you, King Mikey, for your 32 roses, your heart me, and half-dozen team bracelets. Hariom Tat Sat. Thank you, MJ, for your pair of donuts and your pair of disco loves. Radhe, Radhe. And big hugs to you, Cornbread. Shakira, you ask, how do people become Swami? They take sannyas. That means they renounce their name, their occupation, their worldly belongings. This is often done in a Gurukshiksha tradition, where you find someone who has taken renunciation, taken sannyas, and they initiate you. There is no organization of swamis that's nationally or internationally recognized. It's truly like finding a wise person in the middle of nowhere, and then you ask them, hey, can I become a renunciant? And they'd say, maybe. First you must become a brahmachari, a student, and then maybe I might give you my blessings to become a renunciate. But if you find no such guru, you can renounce life yourself. You just won't be initiated into any lineage. Shakira, you ask, do you want to do that? I think I would like to do that, yes. But of course, I must become a good student first, and I'm hardly that yet. Thank you, Priscilla, for another heart me a moment ago. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Grace, for your rose. Jai Sita Rama. Thank you, Tattvamasi, for your quintet of roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Rachel Black Moon, thank you for your 50 roses. Riley, you ask, do you have any advice for dealing with regrets? Know that there is no such thing as an inescapable hell or an unenterable heaven. You might say, what does that have to do with regrets? Well, let me tell you. We regret because we fear that our actions may have made us separable from peace, that there is no forgiveness, no retribution. But this is simply not true, regardless of the journey that you have come to here now. It is within this moment that all things are possible, including everlasting bliss. It doesn't require anything separate from you. So we must let our past actions not weigh us down. Instead, we can learn from them, so that we make better actions in the present. And as we continue to forgive ourselves in the past, we become even wiser in the present. Nobody ever became smart by only doing the correct thing. Mistakes make us even better students in this life. And thank you, Jessica, for your rose. And Tiny Tiny. Yippee! And thank you, Jensing, for your balloons. Hariom Tat Sat. Welcome back to reality. You ask, is this mostly a spiritual belief or religion? Spirituality just means that you are interested in what you are, the spirit, whatever it is. There are no assumptions made of what its nature is, its existence is or isn't. Spirit simply refers to, in essence, what you are. What survives the process of birth and death? What takes incarnation in this body? That witness, that awareness, that consciousness, that soul, that perceiver of this existence. Whatever that is, know that to be what the word spirit refers to. And if you are interested in that, then that is all it means to be spiritual. The difference between spirituality and religion is that religion is one method of coming to understand that spirit that you are. It is the method known as bhakti yoga, union with that spirit through devotion. There are many other pathways to union, to yoga. For example, the scientists, though they do not know it, are on the path of jnana yoga, the path of understanding what they are through knowledge. Similarly, those go-getters, very worldly people who engage in action and find purpose through work, they do not know it, but they are on the path of karma yoga, the path of action. Whatever path of life you are on, be it bhakti, devotion, jnana, knowledge, or karma, action, you are all yogis, since each one of us are striving to understand what we are and our place in relation to everything else. Thank you, Jared, for your 4 roses and your tiny. Yippee! And thank you, Michelle, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. Martin, you ask for any advice on not fearing death. Death is a fact of life, but we fear it only because we love to live. And if you love to live so badly, then why don't you live? The real death is not in what awaits us in the future. The real death is not living right now, because we are afraid of not being enough. If you give your full vibrancy of your being into everything that you do, even if it's peeling a sticker off of a newly purchased book, even if it's walking to the mailbox, even if it's saying hello to your grandmother, even if it's walking your dog, trimming your nails, playing your favorite video game, writing a Word document, whatever you are doing, when you make it out to be your goal, that this is the peak of life in this moment, then how can you fear not living to your fullest when you give your best into everything that you do? And thank you, Michelle, for your hand hearts and more hearts. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Masa, for your pair of roses. Jai Sita Ram. I will let you know when Swamiji replies to me, Sky Guardian, but as of yet, there is no response on my offering to him. Rachel, you are asking, can one refer to themselves as Buddhist simply by studying and meditating? Not even a Buddhist considers themselves a Buddhist, because a Buddhist is a label like any other term. These labels restrict our philosophical expansion, our spiritual extension, and our mental spaciousness. When we confine ourselves to labels, then we no longer seek for meaning in that which extends past the label. Consider, for example, if you were to consider yourself a Buddhist, then on a Wikipedia article about Nirvana, you'd read only the section relevant for Buddhists and skip every other section, because you've identified with that. Instead, however, when you open yourself up to what is beyond labels, you will gladly search everywhere and yet nowhere, because you know that truth doesn't come from one form, one name, from one place, from one person. It is there within your very moment. So do not exclude yourself from it. And thank you, This Is My Show, for your pair of tiny dinies. Yippee! I like that, Jarrett. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That is why it is called the present. Thank you, Master Ugwe. Thank you, Ragnhildr, for a whole galaxy of lights. Always a very humbling gift. Thank you. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Billy, for your bubble tea. And Rachel Blackmoon, thank you for your paper crane. And thank you, Billy. I believe that with practice, any area in which you want to improve at, naturally, you will. You just have to cut your doubts asunder and be naively faithful. Dalen, you are wondering, should I stop smoking? The mind doesn't work in negatives. Consider the first Indiana Jones movie, in the Temple of Doom. Indy finds the central chamber where this idol is on a central altar. but he knows that it is a weighted plate, and if he were to simply take it off, then a booby trap would be set off. So, intelligently, he weighs out a bag of sand to amass about the same amount as the idol, and he carefully replaces the idol with the sand. Unfortunately, it didn't work for him. But if you play this movie in reverse, then you get a very good metaphor. Right now, you have a booby trap being set off by a bag of sand. This is our addiction. The booby trap is all of the potential for harm that comes with it. If we exchange that bag of sand for a golden idol, for a healthy habit, then we can still have something at the center of our altar, and yet not have any potential for harm. So it is not about stopping our addictions. It is about gradually bringing your attention to something higher. And that something higher is even more fulfilling than your addiction. And so you're not even consciously trying to stop. It just happens one day that you forget to take a drag, to pull one out. Just like if you were walking in the dark with a tiny little flashlight on your phone, and then your friend turns on this professional camping outdoor light. It completely washes out your tiny little phone light. You might as well turn it off. Likewise, when you find the bliss that starts to appear through your sadhana, spiritual practices, then our lower vices, they subside, being replaced by something even sweeter. And thank you, Divinity, for your heartbeat. Radhe, Radhe. Lucian, now, you ask, what is the best way to deal with a bully? A bully wants to get a reaction out of you. If you don't give them the joy of a reaction, they search for that reaction elsewhere. However, if you want to change that fear, insecurity in their heart to a source of love, then you must show them love in return. I remember in grade 4 when I moved schools, I was the new kid, and the new kid has to go through the ritual of being bullied unless you were particularly cool, which I was not. So many kids would call me names and exclude me from their games. I felt pitiable. But after experimenting with different ways to combat this bullying, the most effective technique even surprised me because it was a last-ditch attempt. I thought that the next time they pick on me by name-calling, instead of getting defensive, why don't I enjoy it with them? What if I externalize myself for a moment and appreciate the creativity in the names that they call me? And so, I started laughing. And I said, that was a good one. I respect that. And you could see that in the bully's eye, there was this instant change from an enemy to a friend. And I remember when I was in grade 1, I used to bully someone because I had almost no emotional intelligence. They were just different. And so I would pull their hair, I would push them over until they said something that made me realize that they were not my enemy. All they said was, "Why are you doing this? I'm your friend." "Why are you doing this? I'm your friend." In truth, it's not like we were friends in the traditional sense. We didn't hang out at each other's houses, nor did we ever play on the playground together. But in that moment, he asked for me to view him as a friend by assuming I was already his friend. And that blew my mind that day. And I never heard anyone like that again. Bullies don't have some plot against you. It's not personal. They just need to be shown a little love, a little acceptance. Because the rejection is just a projection. And thank you, Katarzyna, for your finger heart. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Rachel Blackmoon, for your hand heart. Jai Sita Rama. Spike ship light, you ask, can I fly? You can fly to such heights as your higher self, and then look down on the world from a spiritual viewpoint. Then negative things become small. And positive things become big. And thank you, Rachel, for your choral. Radhe, Radhe. That's very beautiful. And hello, Ro. G to infinity. You share that it wasn't until high school that the boys who bullied you admitted it was because they liked you. It's funny how it works like that. When we have such strong emotions towards someone, we express it in the only way we know how to express emotions of that magnitude, through frustration, anger. Learning how to love is a great way to extol the deepest expressions of your heart in healthier ways. Alex, you're asking, what does it mean when we reunite with the earth? And how do I align my chakras? The earth is our mother. From its very soil have we all emerged as life forms. The ocean is her womb. To connect with the earth, to reunite with her, means to understand this fact alone, that you are her investment as a lump of soil rearranged through a whole assortment of chemical processes. You better give her a positive ROI, return of investment, when you return this body to her. We don't get to keep our body. It is lent to us by Mother Earth with the hope that we do something good with it. It is like when Grandma gives you Christmas money. She hands you the $50 bill, and you're so excited, you grab onto it, and then she pulls it back for a second. She has that look in her eye. Don't spend this on video games and candy. Okay, Grandma, I will. Alright. You are technically free to go and spend it on video games and candy. But your grandmother, she has wished for you to do something even higher. And your second question was, how do I align my chakras? The chakras align themselves automatically while you endeavor to become more giving, more selfless, more wholesome, more kind, more sincere, more truthful. What happens on the inside is a natural consequence of how we choose to engage with the outside. Jack, you ask, so if the earth is our mother, who is the father? When I say the word earth, I mean the world. And when I say the world, I mean the whole of the universe. All that is material is Maya. From the word material, we get the word maternal. Some call it the matrix today. From that word, we get the term matriarch. In ancient times, we called this universe Maya, and from that we got the word mother. So, the earth is not the only part of the mother. So is the moon, the sun, the whole solar system, the galaxy, the black holes, and all of the other galaxies in the universe. That is the Divine Mother. Then what is the Father if we've excluded everything? Well, the only answer remaining must be nothing. Does this mean there is no Father? Why, yes. Haven't you read the Bible? See? Jesus was born from a mother, but no father. Likewise, this universe has manifested itself miraculously as the mother with no father. But there is a father in the Bible too. They call him the Holy Spirit. What is a spirit if not the formless space? The space in which everything arises. This space is silent. It has no form. You cannot hear it, nor feel it. Whereas the everythingness makes up the mother, that supreme nothingness makes up the father. Scientists are coming to understand that this universe has arisen from nothing. That if you were to sum total all the energy in the universe, it would equate to nothing. Everything perfectly cancels it out. Thank you, Audrey, for your quintet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Dalen Downing, you ask, Yam, are you psychic? Tell the truth. No. I can barely read my own mind. Hello, Beast Mode Bandito. Happy to have you here. Apple user, you ask. But if it cancels out, why are we here? That's one of the biggest unsolved problems in physics. It's called the baryon asymmetry problem. If matter and antimatter are always created in pairs, why is the universe mostly matter and almost no antimatter? If both black holes and white holes are solutions to the Einstein field equations, then why have we detected black holes but no white holes? In the Vedic scriptures, they say that this universe has 3 powers, potencies, Shaktis. The first Shakti is the Maya, the material energy. Science is concerned with this stuff. All the atoms, quarks, gluons, protons, bosons, photons, leptons, fermions, the stuff, the atoms, the molecules. The organelles, the cells, the organs, organisms, the planets, the stars, the solar systems, the galaxies, the cosmic filaments, all the stuff. Science is concerned with that, the Maya. But there's 2 distinct other manifestations, which science does not study because they're not material. The first is you, consciousness. Again, scientists scratch their heads. We just can't figure out how consciousness is generated by the matter. They call it the hard problem of consciousness. And hard it is. According to ancient scriptures, it'll be impossible. Because consciousness and matter are separate manifestations. Science can't study consciousness because it's not a part of the Maya. It's a part of the Jiva. But there's one more manifestation that's separate from both the Jiva and the Maya, the consciousness and the material energy. And this one's very difficult to explain, but it's the solution to your question of why. If everything cancels out, why are we here? And it's that which holds everything together and yet separate. As everything in existence wants to cancel each other out, but there's some primeval force keeping them from being separate. And that's the third Shakti, the Yogamaya Shakti. It is that which separates the Maya from the Jiva. It is known as the firmament in the Hebrew Bible. That which separates the world, the Maya, from the heaven, the consciousness, the Jiva. It is the veil. Yes, exactly, Gregor. Thank you, John F., for your confetti. Radhe, Radhe. And VYV Fragrance, thank you for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Vaz High Roller. I welcome you. And thank you, Rachel Blackmoon, for your hanging lights. Jai Sita Ram. Couple of nomads, you ask if I can turn the music down a little bit. As you wish, my friend. Alright. I've turned it down 20%. And thank you, VYV Fragrance, for another heart me. Radhe, Radhe. Book of Page, you ask. Is there a book that explains all that? Not any book that we can read ourselves without first learning Vedic Sanskrit, which is the first dissension from Proto-Indo-European, the mother tongue of humanity. In other words, it is written in the most ancient language there is. It may take a while to be able to read those words. But the books in particular are known as the Vedas. They have been attempted to be translated into English, as they have in a number of other languages. But it truly is an impossible task to translate it authentically, since Sanskrit is such a spiritual language. But over thousands of years, the Vedas have been distilled into another layer called the Upanishads. These we might come a little closer to understanding ourselves. And then those Upanishads have been distilled into another layer called the Brahma Sutras, even more direct terms, less cryptic. And then those Brahma Sutras have been distilled into various Puranas. And then those Puranas have been distilled into the epics, such as the Mahabharata or the Ramayana. And of the Mahabharata, which is longer than 10 times the size of the Iliad and the Odyssey combined, which are the longest stories in Western literature. In a single section of that Mahabharata, a distillation of the Puranas, which were distilled from the Brahma Sutras, which were distilled from the Upanishads, which were distilled from the Vedas, we get the Bhagavad Gita. With that much intermediary discourse, we can now come close to understanding it ourselves by translating it to English. Thank you, Java Cake, for your heart meat. Radhe Radhe. And Priscilla, thank you for your team bracelet. Jai Sita Ram. Asma, you share that in your studies of linguistics, Sanskrit is used a lot in reconstructing Proto-Indo-European. It is indeed the mother tongue from which language has evolved. All we have to do is wait for the Indus Valley signs to be decrypted, and our understanding of Proto-Indo-European and Sanskrit will swap places. And thank you, Night Witch Tarot, for your rose. Radhe Radhe. And Book of Page, thank you for your rosa. Jai Sita Ram. Spencer Matthews, you ask, how would you describe the differences between Eastern and Western spirituality? I find that the searching of differences may lead to picking sides, may lead to choices, identification, debate, differentiation. Let us seek not to divide the world into rigid categories of East versus West, modern versus ancient, spiritual versus scientific, and instead ask what is the same? In what way are they unified? Then there is no debate over who is right and who is wrong, because what you make of any choice leads to the same overlap. regardless of where you are, in space or in time. The goal of spirituality is always the same, and that is to reunite with this mystical concept we call as the spirit. We may disagree and even fight each other on the best method to get there. But if there's one thing for certain, it's that there are many ways to climb a mountain. Some of them steeper, some of them faster, some take longer, some are safer. As long as you stick to one particular route and don't give up, the only ones not reaching the peak are the ones going in circles, looking at all the differences. And thank you, Audrey D, for your finger heart, for your cloud bread, your TikTok, for your fire, your ginger man, and ice cream, and 5 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Thank you, Book of Page, for your rosa a minute ago. And Miranda, thank you for your heart. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, High Roller, for your heart me and love you. And I see that you subscribed as well. Do enjoy your stickers that you get along with it. I know it's not much, but in any way that I can be of service to you, let me know. Thank you for your star too. Radhe, Radhe. And Miranda, thank you for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. Hello, Becky Sue. How can I be of service to you? And thank you, Book of Page, for your quintet of roses again. Radhe, Radhe. Billy. Okay, let's get really deep now. What's your favorite Indian dish? What I love about Indian dishes is that they're a whole sensory experience. Many spices are psychoactive. They actually engage whole parts of your nervous system. It is a joke here in the West that we don't spice our foods. And compared to Indian dishes, this is very true. You might be wondering why such a variety of spices and so much of them are used in almost every culinary experience. And that's because a whole branch of spirituality has emerged, particularly in the Indian subcontinent, known as Ayurveda. Ayurveda is the study of the relationship between spirituality and our physical health. As such, many different spices are used to invoke balancing of our doshas, our elemental energies of fire, water, air, or in more New Age terms, we balance our chakras through the spices that we choose in various proportions and relationships. So an Indian dish is often not just an experience of taste, but also a spiritual journey through the subtle sensations and impressions in your own body. I have not had many Indian dishes myself. For the few that I have been having the honor of tasting myself, they have been of much gratitude. But I really like pakoras. I think I could just keep popping them in my mouth until I get nice and fat. Thank you, Hybrid Jen, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Gina, for your pair of roses. Jai Sita Rama. Name's Nemo. Thank you for the heart, me too. Jai Sita Rama. Aboitan. You ask, what do the noises you make mean when you roll your tongue? Radhe, Radhe. Simply put, they are salutations to Radha, who is personified here in this art piece next to Krishna. She represents the divine feminine in all three Shaktis that we described earlier in this live. The Shakti to manifest material existence, Maya. The Shakti to manifest individual consciousness, Jiva. And the Shakti to manifest duality amidst the Jiva and Maya. That is the Yogamaya. So, by saying Radhe, Radhe, we are acknowledging the fact that everything that exists is a part of the divine feminine, as that which has emerged from that unknowable, ineffable, incomprehensible potential we call the Source. Mada, you ask, what lies beyond the veil of Maya? The veil of Maya is the Yogamaya. So it depends on what side you're referring to. The outside of the veil is the Maya. But behind the veil is the Jiva, the individual soul. Now you can go either without or within to find the Source. If you go without, then you take the route of Brahman to find the all-pervasiveness hiding behind the Maya. If you go within, then you find the Paramatma, the higher self within the Jiva. Both are God. One is the infinitesimal, and one is the infinite. Thank you, Lucky Lu, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Mai, for your heart me and your team bracelet. Jai Sita Rama. And High Roller, thank you for your pair of love yous. Hariom Tat Sat. And Share Bear, thank you for your heart me. And thank you, High Roller, for another hat and mustache. Radhe, Radhe. Zealot, you say one is the infinitesimal and the other is the regular decimal. I do wonder what the suffix, from where we get the decimal part of infinitesimal, comes from. Dalen, you were wondering, what's the difference in the gods? They differ in what aspects of that infinite they personify. There's a god of fire, a god of water, of wind, of space. There's a god of love, of war, of passion, and of hate. There's a god of beauty and of ugliness, and of anything you can create. They come from the same source, just as we all do. Like a prism refracting the many colors of white light, it may seem like there are different colors in that unified spectrum. But the very same energy that makes up red light is not different from blue light or green light, yellow light, infrared light, X-ray light, microwave light, gamma light, radio wave light. In fact, as the universe expands, many far sources of blue light through the expansion of space has been stretched in their wavelengths to become red. They call that redshift. As a consequence of the Doppler effect of light. This goes to show that what started off as red light can very much become blue light, or vice versa. The very energy which comprises it is not different. It is molded by space and time, just like everything in this existence is. So too all of the deities that we have worshipped across space and time all fundamentally refer to the very same substrate of this substantial existence. Thank you, Candle, for your heart me a minute ago. And Priscilla, thank you for your team bracelet. Radhe, Radhe. Thank you, Lily, for your heart me. And 5 tiny tinies. Yippee! And thank you, Mom Star Shop, for your rose. Rion Tat Sat. And thank you, Kristen, for your heart me. Assalamu alaikum. Jack, you ask, who started existence? I have found that the biggest philosophical questions are answered by negating the subject. Where did the universe begin? Nowhere. Why did the universe begin? Without cause. What created the universe? Nothing. And who created the universe? Nobody. Don't think I'm dismissing God. For God is that very no thing that is nowhere, nobody, and causeless. God is not, so that we are. A music studio is made silent, so music can be heard. A canvas is empty, so that you may paint anything. Likewise, the originator of existence is non-existence, so that it can hold in its absence all that which is presence. And thank you, Joanne, for your dozen roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Lena, for your rose. Hriom Tat Sat. Alethea, you ask, is it non-existent because we can't define it? It's a funny word choice. Non-existent, isn't it? We can only describe it in relation to that which is not. Just as Lao Tzu wrote in his Tao Te Ching, The Way of Life, the Tao, the truth that can be told, is not the eternal truth. So he is describing it in the negative. The name, the identity that can be identified, is not the eternal identity. In the beginning was the nameless, before heavens and the earth. Whether you see to the core of life, or passionately just the surface, wonder names them both. And from wonder, all things are made. Wonder is that secret name for God. It is said that a young child is closer to God than even the highest priests. This is not so surprising when we remember how much wonder exists in the heart of a child. The more you wonder, the less you are certain. When we are conclusionless about life, then you are situated in truth. And thank you, Liv, for your pair of flowers. Radhe, Radhe. And Baz High Roller, thank you for your perfume, 2 rosas, a bouncing beach volleyball, and a cap. Radhe, Radhe. Anna, you ask, imagine if all this is just the need for expression of the numbers. It is said that when consciousness was realized, it required a mirror to see itself. They called that mirror the mind. But the mind needed to be held by something. So that something was called the body. But that body needed continual maintenance. So the world was created to support that body. It all started from that consciousness wanting a mirror to see itself. And then all this existence was necessary in order for that reflection to be seen. And thank you, Linda, for your 35 roses. Radhe, Radhe. And Blaxi, thank you for your heart meet. Jai Sita Ram. Candle, you ask, do you think God can speak to us through physical means, or spiritual, or not at all? Your thoughts? It's not that God speaks to us through the physical. It's that God speaks through us to the physical. Whereas the voice of God is silent, our own self-expression echoes that silence. And thank you, this is my shout for your galaxy. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Ginseng, for your applause. Jai Sita Ram. Alethea, you ask, are you autistic or high on realization? I say, what's the difference? Thank you, Ginseng, for your subscription. I am honored to have the privilege of being in service to you. Radhe, Radhe. Candle, you share that you think we all embody the God that we believe in. I say, I've got the body of a God, and that God is the chubby Buddha. And thank you, this is my shout, for extending your generosity in the form of sending a subscription to some of our fellow Sangis, such as RJ Rose, Christine, Diaper Stain, Michelle Stone, and Divinely Chosen. I hope that you all enjoy the little sticker packs that have come with your subscription through this selfless gesture of sharing. And I look forward to being in any of your services. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, High Roller, for your half-dozen balloons. I'm gonna be flying away like the house and Up. And thank you, Jarrett, for your rose and snowboard. Radhe, Radhe. The Piano Pimp, you ask for my thoughts on Jesus. I believe that He is the way, the truth, and the light to the Father. If you wish to unify with Source through the archetype of the Divine Father, then you do so through association with His Son. However, God is so vast, so infinite, that He has descended on earth many times over, each time spawning a new religion. So, in Sanskrit, we have a word for such a descension of God. The word is Avatara. It is from where we get the English word avatar. It comes from the verb avatarati in Sanskrit, meaning he descends. So an avatar literally means a dissension. There are many qualities of such an avatar, and Jesus is one of many who fit such description. And every time God descends, a new religion is born. Such as long ago, tens of thousands of years ago, there was Rama. After Rama came Krishna. After Krishna came the Buddha. After Buddha came Jesus. There have been many more in between, before, and since. Not all of them are as big as the titans of mainstream religion, but all of them are valid pathways to the source. And thank you, Liv, for your 4 applauses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, user 740, for your tiny. Yippee! User 740, you had asked, which astronomical event do you like to talk about? As humanity goes one trip around our local star, a certain routine transference of energy happens up and down the spine. When a person has experienced millions of these oscillations, they may be eligible for enlightenment. But the outer astronomy is only a projection of our inner astronomy. We can simulate a whole year's worth of evolution by simply doing one Kriya breath. That is, you breathe with your spine. Bringing your breath up and down. Then, 1,000,000 years of evolution is available within a single human lifetime. Thank you, Liv, for another trio of applauses. Radhe, Radhe. Dalen Downing, you ask, is it all the simulation? That would discredit the reality of the Divine Feminine. For she is what makes up the substance of this moment. To call this substance a mere illusion is to prefer the divine masculine. And that is fine if you prefer the creator over creation. But the creator is defined by his creation, which is just as equal and omnipotent. She is just as loving as she is wise. To try to escape this material existence is to try to escape the Divine Feminine. Why would you want to escape your mother, who holds you in her womb, and through the challenges she bestows you, you grow and become stronger? The suffering in this world is not an alternative to bliss. It is the very trial and triumph on our way to bliss. And that is the power of the Divine Feminine. And thank you, Lena, for another rose. Radhe, Radhe. Liv, you ask, Yam, can we have more lifetimes simultaneously? Yes. You just have to start to see yourself within everybody. What that means is, when other people learn something, you let them teach you from their experience what they've learned. Then, everyone in your life becomes a part of you, and you learn with, as, and through them. when we feel like we have nothing to learn from others, then we close off from them energetically. But if you truly want to accelerate your spiritual growth, then everyone becomes a teacher. And thank you, Loopy Lane, for your paper crane. That rhymes. Radhe, Radhe. Vicariousness. A good word, Gregor. And thank you, Goblin Brain, for your finger heart. Jai Sita Rama. User 740. Thank you for your tiny. Yahoo! And thank you, Liv, for another 7 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Catherine, you ask, what happens when the teacher becomes the master? Then we stop learning. And why would you want to do that? And thank you, Rachel, for your hand hearts. Hari Om Tat Sat. I will never tell you to shut up, Dalen, or anyone. There is no such thing as asking too many questions. And thank you, Uruaha, for your GG. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Zealot, for your octet of cloud breads. Jai Sita Ram. The piano pimp, you ask a good question. Does it invalidate Jesus' crucifixion to say that we can get to the source through all religions? It would be invalidating to God to say that he is limited to one religion. For God is the Alpha and the Omega, spanning from the beginning to the end of all things, existing within everything, omnipresent. He must necessarily be found everywhere, in everyone. Does this mean that you have to go out looking in other places? Not at all. In fact, I encourage you to become excellent through one way. Two people went out in the desert searching for a place to dig a well. The first person dug 100 wells, 1 foot deep, and didn't find any water. The second person dug a well 10 feet deep and struck water on the first try. Even though the first person dug 10 times in volume more than the second person, it was the second person that continued striving in their spot that found the source. So if the method that speaks to your heart is the Christian tradition, I empower you to become the most excellent Christian you can. If the tradition that speaks to your heart is a pagan, I empower you to become the most excellent pagan that you can. Whether you're a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Jain, or a Jew, I empower all of you too. You are all right. Keep searching. You will achieve your goal. Whether you're indigenous, Wiccan, Taoist, or Muslim, you all are worthy of that which you seek. There is no wrong way except for when we try to take others down. When we hold others back, we really hold ourselves back. If we can refrain from judgment and simply continue in our paths, then you will achieve the goal. And thank you, Crystal, for your heart meat and trio of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Usha, for your rose and for your finger heart. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Lena, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. Dalen, you are wondering, can you live both in masculine and feminine at once? Of course. What it means to be masculine is to be one-pointed. What it means to be feminine is to be infinite. In each moment, we are both expanding in one dimension and contracting in another. That expansion leads us towards the feminine, and the contraction towards the masculine. With each breath in and out, we balance our masculine and our feminine. Our bodies may seem masculine, but they have all come from Mother Earth. Our leaders may seem masculine, but they all live in our motherland. Some personalities may seem feminine, but they all come from the Father. There is, like yin and yang, femininity existing within all masculinity, and masculinity existing within all femininity. No one can exist treading one path alone. There must be balance in all that we do. And thank you, user 740, for another finger heart. Radhe, Radhe. And Jason, thank you for the rose. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Aitenyap, for your heart me. Hariom Tat Sat. Thank you, Tan Hao Yu, for your heart me too. Jai Sita Ram. And thank you, Aitenyap, for another trio of roses. And Jason Hanks, thank you for your rose. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Angelina, thank you for your rose. Anna, you ask, is good and evil a thing? No. But selfish and selflessness are a thing. Within every action, there can be a selfish motive and a selfless motive. When we strive for selflessness, then we strive for good. Being selfless means that you work not for your own happiness, but for the happiness of others, because you know that that self that you are expands not just to the tips of our fingers, but also into everything and everyone. Knowing this to be such, how could you not take care of everyone and everything when they are all a part of you? And thank you, Gabby, for your 7 roses. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Aitenyap, for your trio of roses. And Bella Brand, thank you for your rose and finger heart. Avery, you ask, how do you begin finding balance? You fall, and you fall again, and you keep getting up, putting your best foot forward, and eventually the gap between your falls becomes longer and longer. If you want to accelerate the speed at which you progress, then you must make room for mistakes and feel good about them. Chris Girl, you ask, what's your favorite color? My favorite color is whichever one I'm looking at now. When I am looking at green, it becomes my favorite. When I am looking at yellow, then yellow becomes my favorite. Whatever I look at, that I love most. But what I love most is always changing, so that I can love everything most, at least once. Chelsea, you ask, what are angels and demons? They are thoughts that travel from one being to the next. when someone acts on an angry thought, that thought may spread to another. Like a mental virus, thoughts can breed, expand their territory, take over some regions, and pass away. When that thought is good, we call it divine, angelic. We say that a person is behaving as an angel. When that thought is bad, then we say it's evil, and that person is behaving demonically. To bring more angels into the world simply means to spread more positive thoughts. And to minimize demonic possession simply means to not act on negative thoughts so that they don't possess you. Anthony, you ask, do you ever find yourself bored nowadays? I am eternally bored, and that is the driving force behind creation. Dalen, you had asked, do you mean to tell me there is no real meaning to all this? Real, we can use in many ways. When we say something is real, we mean it's a part of reality. The scientists, they are interested in objective reality. They are interested in what can be known through measurement, through observation and experiment on objects. This definition of reality makes it impossible to come to answers about our spirit, because the spirit is not an object, but that which experiences objects. As the experiencer, it is the subject of life. Being subjective, it has no objectivity. So if your definition of what is real does not include the spirit, then indeed there is no meaning here. If, however, your reality includes consciousness, then you are that meaning which you are in search of. And thank you, Queen Rock, for your heartmeat. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Gina, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. And yes, Sky Guardian, I do have the Swami Tadatmanandaji meditation ready for later. Vegar, you ask, isn't selfless also selfish in a way? even for a good reason, you can still get happiness out of it. Rom-coms in Hollywood have made it a trope that a relationship may start on faulty intentions but become pure later. In the beginning, you might hate doing something, but end up loving it the more you do it. Likewise, through selflessness, we start with intentions that could be purified. But the more we do it, the more our intentions become pure. The only way to make them pure is to keep doing it, to keep engaging in selflessness until it becomes truly selfless. Until there is no perception of self as separate from anyone else. Thank you, this is my show. For another whole galaxy. Radhe, Radhe. Always a humbling token of generosity. And thank you, Lucas, for your friendship necklace. Namaste. Is that ooh? Yes, it is ooh. You ask, can we love triangles when one is in a love triangle? I suppose the equilateral triangle can love the scalene triangle because it wants to be more free. The scalene triangle, that loves the isosceles triangle for the beauty of its symmetry. But the isosceles triangle loves the equilateral triangle because of its stability. So we have a love triangle triangle and a triangle love triangle. And thank you, Aiten Yap, for your rose. And Tattvam Asi, thank you for your dozen roses. Radhe, Radhe. Dalen, you ask. So basically, it's more fun to live in the feminine, as the famous saying goes. Girls just want to have fun. It's important that we live in this world, but not of it. That we don't reject this world, nor do we identify with it. That we withdraw our sense of self from it, and yet become of service to it. And thank you, Bella Brandt, for your heart me. Radhe, Radhe. Lucas, you ask, what's the best way to raise your vibe to connect with the fifth dimension. When you take a photograph, every pixel in the image is described by 5 independent values. There's one value for how horizontal of a pixel you're referring to. That is to say, what column the pixel is in. There is one value for how vertical the pixel is. What row you're referring to. One column, one row describes where it is in the 2-dimensional space. But you also have to describe what color that pixel is. If you zoom in very close on the retina of a camera, you'll see that each pixel is able to receive light in the red, in the green, and the blue parts of the spectrum. The ratios of red to green to blue to red are enough to create the entire color space. Each of these values is represented by another number. Altogether, to describe any pixel in an image requires 5 independent numbers. When a set of values are independent, we say that they exist in space that varies with the number of dimensions corresponding to the number of independent directions. So, a photograph is 5-dimensional, 2 dimensions of space, and 3 dimensions of color. So, sight is 5-dimensional. To simply see things for what they are, that is 5D. Thank you, Lucas, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Good night, Bella. Why don't we read from another section of the Pocket Pema Chodron? Pema is a lovely Buddhist nun, and some of her most powerful words have been recollected here in this little handbook. 108 of them to be exact. Here we open to number 45, the perfection of patience. Patience is not learned in safety. It is not learned when everything is harmonious and going well. When everything is smooth sailing, who needs patience? If you stay in your room with the door locked and the curtains drawn, everything may seem harmonious. But the minute anything doesn't go your way, you blow up. There is no cultivation of patience when your pattern is to just try to seek harmony and smooth everything out. Patience implies willingness to be alive rather than trying to seek harmony. A hermit, well known for his austerity, had been meditating in a cave for 20 years. An unconventional teacher named Patrul Rinpoche showed up at the cave, and the hermit humbly and sweetly welcomed him in. Patrul Rinpoche said, "Tell me, what have you been doing here?" "I've been practicing the perfection of patience," the hermit answered. Putting his face very close to the hermit's face, Patrul Rinpoche said, "But a pair of old scoundrels like us, we don't care anything about patience, really. We only do this to get everyone's admiration, right? We just do this to get people to think we are big shots, don't we?" And the hermit started getting irritated. But Patrul Rinpoche wouldn't stop. He just kept laughing and patting him on the back and saying, "Yeah, we sure know how to do people, don't we? We really know. I'll bet they bring you a lot of gifts, don't they?" At this point, the hermit stood up and screamed, "Why did you come here? Why are you tormenting me? Go away and leave me in peace." And then the Rinpoche said, "So now, where is your perfection of patience?" So, that's the point. We can create the ideal situation in which we have a very high opinion of ourselves. But how do we do when it comes to the big squeeze, the collision of our vision with the reality of the situation? The perfection of patience. Number 45. From the pocket, Pema Chotran. And thank you, Blue Blood, for your quintet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Anna, you share that you noticed that I have been learning a lot about myself during these sanghas. I'm happy that you noticed that, Anna. I learned so much from all of you. And this opportunity that you offer me in this sangha together. Harriet, you share. Pray for my brother and one of my close friends. Their health hasn't been good. Heading to the hospital. Much love your way. Health is a very delicate thing. And it's times like these that we become good friends by caring for them when they're down, and remind ourselves of the preciousness of our own health. And thank you, Rachel, for your quintet of roses. Radhe, Radhe. And you have a pleasant evening as well, Lucas, and a grand rising. Thank you. And good night, Liv. Oh, you were wondering, why is it hard to be patient when someone is taking advantage of it? Because then we are stuck in a moral dilemma. Should we risk the situation blowing up by refraining from our patience? Or should we continue being patient at the sacrifice of our own or another's well-being? Patience does not mean that we tolerate the intolerable. Patience doesn't mean you are quiet when something needs to be said. And patience doesn't mean that you stand on the sidelines when something needs to be done. Patience is an inner sensation. We may be engaged in something difficult externally, but in our inner world, we make room for victory or defeat. We allow for things to go well or not so well. That allowance, that spaciousness, and that inner solidarity, that is the patience. And thank you, PW, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Embodiment to Gaia. I happily welcome you. Supernatural, you ask. Why do we do it? I chose knowing too. Takes away from living. Just as Lao Tzu writes in the Tao Te Ching, whether one sees to the core of life or passionately the surface, wonder names them both. You could go into the ocean of knowledge and search for the most sublime pearls of wisdom. But don't forget that that sunlight on the surface is what truly makes that pearl sparkle. Deep in the dark abyss, that pearl has no other value. It is when we bring our knowledge out and up that we become connected again. In this way, spirituality isn't a quest to become uninvolved with the world, emotionally distant from the people in your life. Yes, you may have retreated from the world in order to find your center, but once you know, then you come back with a kind of aliveness that permeates everything you do. Thank you, Johnny Vibe, for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. Johnny Vibe, you say, I hear you, but I don't hear you. You feel me? That's here. H-E-R-E, here. As many wise sages have said, the goal of my words is to guide you to the silence between them. And thank you, Rachel, for your 50 roses. Radhe, Radhe. Mo, you share that you've been isolated for so long, and how everything is extremely overwhelming. Reconnecting is painful. And being isolated allows us to expand our ability to hold pain. Spirituality isn't anesthesia. It is not meant to reduce your pain, but increase your capacity to bear it. And the pain that we experience in reconnecting is precisely the point of our journey to expand our tolerance of life. Thank you, Joe Adams, for your quartet of roses and a whole galaxy of stars. Radhe, Radhe. Thank you. And thank you, Lily, for your rosa and quartet of roses. Jai Sita Rama. And thank you, Dr. Rebecca, for your rose. And Mahina, thank you for your rose too. Jai Sita Rama. I'm happy you are here, Lindy. And hello, Adam Hot Dad. I saw you crept in. I'm feeling very peaceful in this moment. Thank you. And Strenga, you had said that I look like a little kid right now. Innocent. Well, don't let me fool you. Darkness is something that we've all experienced. Innocence is not lost by the experience of darkness. Being immersed in the light, even amidst surrounding darkness, one can be innocent. And thank you, Vautsiahana, for your pair of roses. Radhe, Radhe. Jameson, you ask, are you responsible for intrusive thoughts? You are responsible for your association with thoughts. If you choose to act on an intrusive thought, then you are responsible for that choice. You are not responsible for the appearance of thoughts. They arise on their own accord. If only we could choose which thoughts arise, then at nighttime we wouldn't think about that awkward thing we said to our crush in middle school again and again. Fortunately, we are not the thought. But when we identify with our thoughts so often, then we feel like we are the ones responsible for them. And when a thought that we no longer wish to associate with arises, we call it intrusive. But the truth is that all thoughts are intrusive. At the same time, none of them are. Our only choice is whether we agree with the thought or not. And you don't have to agree with every thought. You don't have to disagree with every thought. In fact, you are even free to remain opinionless on many thoughts. Thoughts are like the food that comes along the conveyor belts in those fancy sushi restaurants they have in Japan. You pay for what you eat. A certain type of sushi roll might come by. Now, if you thought that you had to engage in every kind of sushi that comes by, eventually you'd get overwhelmed, frustrated. But you're allowed to interact just with the thoughts that you want to, and leave the rest for another time, another place. And thank you, Johnny Ringo, for your heartmeat and 10 team bracelets. Jai Sita Rama. And Alice, thank you for your rose. And thank you, Jared, for your tiny nippy and your 2 fires. See you later, Mo. in this analogy, what are the intrusive ones? Jameson. The intrusive ones happen when you're a vegetarian, but you see some battered chicken come your way. Oh no! That's intrusive to my identity, my palate. But with the understanding that not all the plates are made for you to engage with, to consume, then you are freed from the burden of having to eat it. Thank you, Alfie, for your heartmeet. Radhe, Radhe. Doggy Life, you asked, how do you prevent yourself from attaching thoughts to feelings? Our mind and our memories, our imaginations are all like a big fabric. You tug on one end, you'll see ripples forming at the other end. Naturally, a certain feeling may resonate with similar feelings that we've collected through life. That resonance is normal. When we smell something that reminded us of something when we were younger, when we were happier, happy feelings may arise again, even though the smell itself is not necessarily conducive to happiness. It could be the smell of your grandparents' house, the perfume of your first girlfriend, or the flowers outside your childhood home. Trying to suppress the resonance is like trying to forget the beauty of your life and all of the things that you've experienced. It's all valid, and you're welcome to explore the feelings that arise from certain thoughts, and explore the thoughts that arise from certain feelings. You are an exploration of this universe. If you ever feel like you're lost, that means you're doing something right. Because the point isn't to stay in one place for long, but to explore the variety of life. Thank you, Alfie, for your heartmeet, your rose and team bracelet. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Alice, for your rose. Jai Sita Rama. Kami, you ask, what can one do to ascend? When you walk into the ground floor of a tall building, I became Russian for a split second, and you want to get to a higher floor, what do? you have to call the elevator. The elevator must descend, and then you step in, and then you ascend with the help of the elevator. So too, in Sanskrit, the word for descend is avadarati. It means they descend. The one who descends is called an avatarha, from where we get the English word avatar. There have been many avatars, many descensions. Those are your elevators to step in and ascend. Such as Jesus of Nazareth taking you to the Christ, such as Siddhartha Gautama taking you to the Buddha. Their humanness is their ground floor. Their superhumanness is where they take you if you abide in them. Great sages are your elevator. You just have to call to them so that they descend to you. And thank you, Fauzia, for your finger heart. Hari Om Tat Sat. You had asked, can I tell you how you can do for your life? No one can tell you what to do with your life, but we may relate in one another's experiences. And in my experience, I have found the most practical way to live is to live happily. Happy people are more successful. Happy people live longer. Happy people have better immune response. Happy people look younger. Happy people have more friends. It's good to be a happy person. Whatever you do in life, do it happily. Don't see happiness as what awaits you. See life as awaiting your happiness. And thank you, Usha, for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. Jamison, you ask, would you consider your own experiences and opinions as wisdom? I think that anyone can look for their own experiences in life for wisdom, just as we can look for the experiences of others as a source of wisdom too. Never underestimate what you've gone through and the depth of life that you've experienced. but any wisdom that comes from my experience is a gift to me and not something created by me. So I can never take ownership over it. I can only be grateful for it. And thank you, Rachel, for your locking key and for your hearts. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Sal, for your disco love and for your donut. Hariom Tat Sat. Mahina, you asked, why do people kill people, especially those that's brought good to the world? John Lennon, Gandhi. Some people have experienced so much pain that they close themselves off from the world and refuse to open up to it in case they experience that pain again. So when there is an opportunity for them to open, they would rather squash that opportunity as if it were a bug than risk opening to life, to pain again. What is missing in them is the trust in the process of becoming vulnerable again. That being open to life doesn't mean that who you are is going to be threatened. Yes, opening yourself up to new ideas, to new people, to new thoughts, to new experiences can bring about pain. But that pain that we go through in the transition to openness is much, much easier to go through than the pain that comes from being closed off from everything. It's difficult to come to healing. It's difficult to make the first step. But in the long run, it'll be even more difficult not to. And thank you, Jared, for your pair of fires, your snowboard, and your rose. Radhe, Radhe. This guy, you ask, how should we think about low empathy people? they seem destined to hurt others. When I was younger, I was one of those people. I seemed to always find myself in trouble with my parents, their parents, my teacher, my principal. Everyone told me that I had no empathy, that I lacked understanding. But the truth is that I was so sensitive to other people's emotions that I had shut them out to protect myself without realizing that doing so only hurt others. So in a funny sense, I was so empathetic that I built walls around myself to appear unempathetic, so as to not feel as deeply as I could. What changed for me is realizing that I'm allowed to hold space for others' emotions, and that allowance does not preclude me of being whole. That it's okay to feel intense fear, intense anger, intense sadness, intense pain. That all of that is a part of being human. That I didn't have to shut others off from me emotionally in order to still experience a layer of happiness that permeates all of existence. Thank you, Alfie, for your team bracelet. Radhe, Radhe. And Voodoo Guru, thank you for your cloud bread. Jai Sita Ram. And this is my show. Thank you for your heart meet. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Jarrett, for your hand hearts. Now, we have been live for over 3 hours now. I think it's a good time to start to wrap things up. I know that there are many more questions, and I'd love to attend to them when I have more energy again. If you can't wait, feel free to message me. Otherwise, I'll be here tomorrow at the same time. Before we close, however, there are a few segments I'd like to go through. My first is a question of the day. The second is a reading from a spiritual book. And the third is a closing chant that we all can engage in together. My question of the day for all of you is, how do you honor love? It is a difficult question, I recognize, but we have many very bright minds here. 225 to be exact. Lily, you share that you honor love by being open to receiving it. Connor, you honor love by trust and appreciation. Julia, you honor love by making sure your actions are aligned with it. And 9 chances, you share that you honor love through self. You deepen your connection so that you may serve and lift others. Doom Knight, you honor love with patience and humility. And Kelsey, you honor love by being your authentic self and keeping centered so that you may hold space for others. CG for you. You share to remember that love does not demand itself. Love is trust. Love is patience. Sophia, you honor love unconditionally with an open heart. And Joan X, you share that love is life. Jameson, you let love light your life. Your loved ones keep you here. And Stephen, you share that you try to honor love by not being my old self and learning from your old self so that you can become better in the present. Neat Pink Shark, you honor love by cherishing every moment and express gratitude daily. And yes, I can answer your question, Alfie, on the question of Christ consciousness. Christ is consciousness. The very substrate of life. And Rain, you ask, how do I honor love? It's a good question. That's why I asked all of you. So far from all of you, I am learning that we honor love by not restricting love, by being open to its possibilities without expectations. If I were to posit an underlying theme between all of your answers, I think that would be it. So I thank you for guiding us all towards the answer to this curious question. Thank you, Mahina, for your rose. Hari Om Tat Sat. And thank you, Evie, for your 10 roses. Jai Sita Ram. Thank you, Jarrett, for your 12 roses. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Scott, for your pair of roses. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And thank you, Enzoscope, for your rose. Hare Om Tat Sat. The Evil Eye, also known as TikTok username. You ask, do you go to any temples in person? Temples in person. Temples in person. I think you're right. I think the temple is in our person. And yes, Sikmin. That is my cat in my profile picture. His name is Sandy. I love Sandy. Alright, why don't we read from another section of Swami Taratmanandaji's The Roar of the Ganges. This is a book written by the guru of one of our lovely participants, Sky Guardian. Sky Guardian has graciously asked his guru to aid in sending his book to us so that we could read it in our Sangha. And he even got Swamiji to sign it for us with prayers and blessings, so that this book has a spiritual charge to it. He also said that you don't have to buy it because he's making the PDF for this whole book free. Sometime in the near future, I suspect. This book takes us currently in an ashram, a spiritual hermitage on the Ganges, a spiritual river, in Rishikesh, a spiritual town, in India, a spiritual country. Here, before Swami was a Swami, his name was Mark. And Mark, well, I'll let him describe how his life is going. Mataji approached the bench where Swami Prakash and I had been sitting for over an hour. "Excuse me, Swamiji," she said apologetically. "Swami Sudananda would like to speak with you." "Please tell him I am coming." Turning to me, he said, "Well, my friend, we must continue later, isn't it?" I remained on the bench, watching the morning sun sparkle on the dancing river. I didn't get the opportunity to tell Swami Prakash of my upcoming initiation to become a Swami myself. I mulled over our conversation, thinking about how life-shaping journeys begin when the desire for spiritual growth emerges. Strangely, I recalled a passage in J.R.R. Tolkien's Hobbit, where Bilbo reluctantly leaves his comfortable hobbit hole to undertake a fantastic adventure. Gandalf, the wise wizard, says to Bilbo, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." Profound stuff for a fictitious wizard, I thought. But then again, Gandalf had apparently uttered the same words written long before by the Chinese Taoist Lao Tzu in his well-known work, the Tao Te Ching. A silent sadhu. After evening puja at the temple, Vijay, my friend, and I strolled back and forth through the small ashram compound, waiting for dinner. We walked slowly talking in hushed voices as the sky grew dark. The garden's fragrant blossom scented the air. Vijay stopped when we neared the gate and said, "I know one sadhu who is living in a cave in mountains near Nilkant. He has taken a vow of silence. He is a Mauni. He is meditating in that cave for over 10 years. Sometimes he is sitting outside to give blessings to people, but he is never speaking to anyone." "That's amazing," I exclaimed. "He hasn't left his cave or spoken for 10 years?" "No, he is very strict." "What does he do about food?" I asked. "Some devotees from Rishikesh are bringing him food. They go up to the cave every day. They are wanting to receive his blessings." Intrigued by the prospect of meeting such a great ascetic saint, I asked, could we go up to see him? "Why not we go tomorrow?" Vijay replied, obviously delighted by my interest. We had shared adventures like this many times before. He enjoyed them as much as I. He said that the cave is about 8 miles away. If we left early tomorrow morning, we could reach the cave and return before nightfall. Before I could learn anything more about the silent sadhu, the cook stepped out from the kitchen and sounded a brass gong hanging from a tree limb, announcing dinner time. Inside the dining hall, we stood in line and joined the ashram residents in chanting the familiar verses of the Bhagavad Gita, customarily recited before meals. As we passed by the cauldrons of steaming food, we were served rotis, flatbreads, spicy curries, and mounds of rice. I sat on the floor next to Vijay, trying not to drop food from my fingers onto my white dhoti. At 6 o'clock the following morning, Vijay arrived at my room with 2 cups of tea. We quickly gulped the sweet concoction and immediately set out so we could complete most of our journey before the hillsides baked in the midday heat. As we passed through the narrow lanes just outside our ashram, the villagers living nearby were rising and preparing for a new day. A wiry man in a torn t-shirt was vigorously scrubbing his teeth with a twig from a neem tree, a handy disposable toothbrush used in villages throughout the country. The neem tree is regarded highly by practitioners of folk medicine. Its bark, leaves, and twigs are said to have medicinal value. But, judging from the many villagers I've observed with just a few teeth remaining, it seemed doubtful that the neem twigs prevented gum disease. Vijay and I approached the marketplace near the river, where shabby makeshift stalls crowded together on either side of the road. On either side of the road remained closed except for one tiny tea stand. There, I saw a young man prepare a cup of tea by straining the brew through a sock, an inelegant but eminently practical filter. The waiting customer watched us with curiosity as we passed in the twilight. Vijay and I soon reached the Ram Jhula, a narrow footbridge spanning the Ganges, suspended on a spidery network of steel cables. It swayed gently as we crossed. Not far below, the Ganges flowed, almost silently. On the far back of the river, ashrams sprawled across the narrow strip of land between the river and mountains. As we skirted one of them, the morning stillness was broken by a melodious chanting. The ancient Sanskrit verses drifting over the ashram's walls implored, "May all creatures be happy." And with that, we will pause our reading there before Vijay and Mark, soon to become Swami Taratmanandaji, continue on their quest to find this ascetic sadhu who has taken a complete vow of silence, meditating in the caves for a decade now. I certainly look forward to their meeting of him tomorrow as we continue with our journey through Roar of the Ganges. And I thank you, my dear viewers, for reading with me. And I thank you, Jarrett, for sath me. And I thank you, Jarrett, for sath. Now it seems that my internet disconnected me for a second. But do let me know when my connection has returned so that I may be of service to you. I hope the connection has returned again. I'm back. Thank you for letting me know. As I was saying, Jared had extended his generosity again to so many by gifting a sub to Ma and Kosika, Mini Winoki or Winochi, to Gina, Robin of Loxley, Wasted 341, Honey Bunny, Palma, Vibrating Buddha, Dear Mama JJ, to G, Melly, Bova, Andy, Sherry John, your local detective, Vicky Lynn, Sam, Little Travel Bug, and Starfish. So many wonderful people in which I receive the honor of being in service to. What a generous guy, says Lily. I agree. Thank you. And thank you for your patience as you awaited me to acknowledge whilst I read Roar of the Ganges. Also, whilst I read Jarrett, you also sent a hat and mustache. So thank you for that too. And Alfie, thank you for your 17 bracelets. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Bobby Sue, for your heart me team bracelet. Cheer you up. And 16 finger hearts. Hariom Tat Sat. And Bobby Sue for another 1, 2, 3, 4 finger hearts. Jai Sita Ram. Good night, Doom Knight. And thank you, Jarrett, for an additional finger heart. Hariom Tat Sat. Thank you, Smiles and Flames, for your heart meat. And Usha, thank you for your rose. Radhe, Radhe. And thank you, Baby Galvo, for your rose as well. Now, here, let me end our music so that we can put on a different background music, that is, listening to Swami Taratmanandaji himself recite our mantra that we are going to chant together before we end our live stream. If you want to partake, you certainly don't have to. This is the first time I will be chanting with him, so I hope you can allow me some room for finding the rhythm and correct pronunciation. The audio quality is a little muffled too, given that it was recorded by Sky Guardian himself on his phone whilst attending Swamiji's satsang. The mantra that we are reciting today is rendered in Devanagari above, which is the traditional script for Sanskrit. But in English, you may pronounce it as Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which translates to, may all the beings and all the worlds become happy, which just happens to be the mantra that Swamiji was hearing when we ended our reading today. So, let us invoke that same feeling that he must have felt in experiencing it chanted. Allow me to play the volume. Here it is. His chanting of it, and we can find the rhythm together and hear his audience chant along with them.
Learn to chant the mantra now. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. All people be happy, free from suffering. Listen and repeat after us. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Repeat. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Listen. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. We'll chant together. Join me, please. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Once more. Loka samastas sukhino bhavantu. Now our contemplation begins. And it begins with the person from your family. I ask you to choose someone in your immediate family who has undergone a tremendous amount of suffering. Picture that family member in your mind and reflect on some of the terrible difficulties they've been through. Reflect on how badly those difficulties affected your loved one, how much he or she suffered as a result of that problem, and how it affected you, because that person is a loved one in your immediate family. It must have affected you very deeply. You felt bad because of the suffering of your loved one. And you felt bad because of empathy. You felt the suffering that they felt. Maybe you didn't feel it as strongly or deeply as they did, but you felt their suffering. And because you felt that suffering, it made you want so dearly for your loved one to be free from suffering. When we feel the suffering of a loved one, we naturally want their suffering to go away. That's why we return to the mantra now and we pray together. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all people be happy, may all people be free from suffering, and especially your loved one. May your loved one who has suffered so terribly, may he or she be free of suffering. We pray now as we return to the mantra together. Chant with me. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Now we continue our contemplation by reflecting on the acquaintance of yours. I ask you to choose.
All right. Now, the chanting goes on for another 18 minutes or so, but given that that is a very long time for many people who are just beginning in the practice of spirituality, I think that's enough teaser. So I very much thank you all for joining with me and even listening to this saying, may all beings in all the world become happy. Thank you to Sky Guardian for sharing this mantra with us via your guru, and thank you to your guru, Swami Taratmanandaji, for increasing the grace of the Sangha. And thank you, Manda, 1111, for the rose you sent whilst we were chanting Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Carol, for your rose. Jai Sita Ram. I'm happy that you enjoy that mantra very much, Gregor. It is certainly mutual. Now, before we go, I have some advertisements. The first is, in case you wanted to watch this live, outside of the live stream, I upload all of the recordings to my Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, where you can get the full benefit of it without the chat, and you can even, in the description, click on the exact timestamps to everything that we've done in the 3+ hour long video, down to the minute. And besides the Yamsox Lives YouTube channel, I also have the Yamsox ASMR channel, where we've been reading through the Bhagavad Gita, this ancient spiritual scripture, one chapter at a time. Currently, we are all the way up to chapter 3, and I look forward to recording chapter 4 soon. There I have some other stuff planned, from a guided meditation to a chanting as well, learning how to chant, proper pronunciation techniques, and what to keep in mind while you're doing it for the benefit of relaxation, affirmation, and spiritual growth. Last week we uploaded a video that talking you down from a panic attack that I recorded. In that I mixed together all the techniques that I've learned in my experience to come to peace amidst anxiety, panic, or existential dread. And if that's something that you feel like you or others might benefit from, then you're welcome to go check that out. Save it for later. On a regular basis, these lives happen at 5 p.m. Pacific time, but the last week of the month, whatever the last 7 days are, I dedicate to 12 p.m. Pacific time, 5 hours earlier, for my earlier viewers who are in Europe and other earlier time zones. And on my microphone, there is a pair of Yamsox. This is Yamsox. These are Yamsox. And in case you wanted something in return for supporting me, which is never expected, by the way, you can get yourself a comfy pair of Yamsox on the store section of the link tree in my bio. Or a tiny toque, which seems to have disappeared. I digress. It's not that important. But I thank you all for being here with me, and I'm very grateful to learn with you. I'm certainly growing as a person. I think I'm getting taller, actually. Just a little bit. And of course, spiritually too. Thank you. May this be an offering to Radha Krishna, and allow me to chant the Maha Mantra in their name. Radhe Krishna, Radhe Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Shyama, Radhe Shyama, Shyama Shyama, Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Dogmata, for your heart me. And thank you to my lovely moderators who help ensure that this space is free from any unnecessary adversity. May you all have a beautiful rest of your present moment, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Goodbye.